Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Null Knives Raikou. At least that's how I'm going to pronounce it. Because that's how I pronounced it when I played the old Pokemon games. I think that was gold and silver. But to my knowledge, that is referring to the same, well, not the exact same, but the original lightning beast. I think it has something to do with a fox shrouded in lightning, I think is what the website says. This knife is based on the same platform as his popular Raiden knife, who is, to the best of my knowledge, is a thunder god. That, again, it comes from video games. It comes from, for me, it comes from Mortal Kombat. I'm sure there's much more depth to it. But that makes sense. This is a theme, right? That's what I'm trying to say, clumsily. Thank you so much to Null Knives for sending this in for me to take a look at. This has been in my pocket quite a bit. I'm pretty familiar with the platform it's based on, just with my experience from the Raiden, but it's been great to carry. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. So these dropped, by the time you guys are seeing this, they will have dropped on, I believe, April 11th. Now, I'm still going to link his website down in the description because I want you to check him out. I want you to be familiar with Null Knives if you're not, because everything he's created has just been phenomenal. My personal favorite being the Voodoo. I own that knife. I love it. But if for some reason you missed this and you really want it, I would say don't worry, because it's likely he's going to keep making awesome stuff. So check out the website. Perhaps these are still available. Let's go ahead and get a measurement. The overall length of the Raikou coming in at, boy, just shy, 7.9 inches. Blade length, I say just shy of 8 inches. Blade length is coming in at about 3.5, and cutting edge is 3.25. How about some size comparisons? Any custom scales you find in this section can be found down in the description under Original Goat and Others, up against the AD10 and the AD20.5. As you can see here, it's not a small knife. It's just got sort of a thin, well, not thin, on the thinner side profile, but definitely longer than knives like the AD20.5. Let's go ahead and put it up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3. Approaching the same overall length as the PM2, but quite a bit more cutting edge. I say quite a bit, a little more cutting edge for sure. Way more cutting edge than the Para 3. And then last but not least, let's put it up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue and the Hogue Deca. It's almost like if you stretched out the Deca. There are some, not a lot, but some similarities here with the profiles between this and the Deca in a good way. How's the action? Very good. It's extremely satisfying. I have to tell you, I love your choice of thumb stud here. Look what we did. Where there's normally a little peak, excuse how gross my fingernails are, please. There's no peak. It's just bowled out. We have these nice wide stepped thumb studs. If there was a peak or a pointy end on there, Sabenza, excuse me, that was a weird cough, I would hate it. God, I don't understand why they're like, you know what? The thumb stud's great the way it is. It's really comfortable. But you know what would be great? Let's put a big spike on the end of it and just piss everybody off. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Stop doing that. It's like this. That's where your thumb goes to manipulate the knife, right? It's not comfortable. Sabenza owners, you're kidding yourselves. That is so uncomfortable. But it's not just the Sabenza that's guilty of that. There's lots of companies that do that. I'm just very appreciative of the placement and the style of thumb stud on this knife. Who is the OEM? To my knowledge, it's Riot. That's who did the Raiden, and I believe all of his other knives. It's just not specified on this one. I wouldn't get mad at Null Knives for not specifying, because I've heard that Riot is weird about who can specify and who can't. I have no idea. I honestly don't know if that's even true. That's just a rumor that I've heard. Whatever. It's probably Riot. It feels like Riot. And if I was the Riot company, I would want people to know that I OEM'd this. So I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, I'm almost certain that it is, in fact, Riot. The actuation of the lock bar is very easy, and there's plenty of access despite it not being carved out in the front so that you can, it looks like it would be pinchy, right? But they've shaved that down just enough to where it's really convenient, and you can get close enough to the blade that it falls right into that sharpening choil position, right? So your one-handed disengagement is very easy. It's super smooth. Just a little bit of encouragement here, which means it's going to break in beautifully. You can reverse flick it with the thumb stud because the detent is just magnificent. Let's look at this. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. That's exquisite. And you can manipulate it via this slot that's milled out in the blade. Not all the way through. I think that was a classy touch there because if it was all the way through, it'd just be a hole, which is fine, but we have a little leftover material in there, which he has like, I don't know if it's like an acid finish, right? An acid wash finish. Nice contrast, really looks good, but very easy to reverse flick. There's just enough room here where your fingernail can get in there and you're not contesting with the rest of the frame, which is irritating with a lot of other designs. I don't know why they do that, but this is done beautifully. If you like the convenience and the satisfaction of the deployment mechanisms being placed in the right place, right? Being easily accessible, whether your fingers are big, fat, meaty, beefy sausages or little tiny toothpicks, whatever. I don't care. This is very easy to manipulate. This is what I like to see. So thank you very much. No surprise there that Null Knives knows what they're doing. Let's go ahead and do carry profile. Thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. Honestly, it's about exactly the same. Length and height up against the PM2 and the Para 3. This really doesn't take up any more room in the pocket than the Para 3, dare I say less. Well, it's a little bit longer, truthfully. A little bit longer, but not quite as tall. Definitely smaller than the PM2. Materials. This is a big one. What are we looking at here for materials? Titanium, 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 and... Oh, sorry. You can't see it because it is open. S90V. Thank you. Thank you. There's nothing wrong with M390. I don't know about you guys. I'm sick of it. I notice a difference when we're looking at properly heat-treated M390 and properly heat-treated S90V. The knives that I carry in S90V, it seems like a lot of companies have no issue getting the heat treatment right. Whereas M390, you have some companies dicking around with 57 and 58 Rockwall, which is stupid. Like, what do you hammer nails in with a wrench as well? Like, what are you doing? Do it right. Like, what? I don't understand why so many companies have an issue with that. S90V, like, oh yeah, we know what we're doing. And it's a noticeable, even for somebody like me, who's a casual user of pocket knives, not a professional bush lord of any type. No, I just use my knives for regular stuff. But I notice after a long period of time, cutting with the same S90V knives over and over again, holy crap, these things hold an edge forever. It's really great. S90V is awesome stuff, and it's stainless. Not quite as stainless as M390. What I'm getting at here is that S90V, and also, by the way, S90V made by Crucible, it is definitely more expensive to purchase. These companies, it's not like, this is Riot. It's not like they're using Chinese S90V. This is from Crucible. This is USA Crucible S90V. It's expensive. So there is value there, right? Now, some people might need that increase in corrosion resistance that M390 offers, but S90V is still a stainless composition and has a decent balance of toughness. It is not a tough composition, not in the sense that CPM3V is tough, but it is tough enough for, I think, what people will use it for. Personally, if I'm going to spend a lot of money on a pocket knife, S90V is my preference. If my choices are M390 or S90V, I'm going to take S90V, and I know a lot of you feel the same. It's a good composition. It's not a new composition, but it is definitely a good composition. So there you go. S90V blade, very cool. Titanium frame, titanium pocket clip, titanium backspacer, etc. Weight on this guy. We do have, by the way, milling on the inside of the scales for weight reduction. It does say Raikou on the inside, and then these are numbered. So this one in particular is 91. So if you have pre-ordered yours, when you get, you can see the number there on the inside. 3.53 ounces, which is pretty awesome considering we have a 3.5-inch blade. So the ratios on this knife are wonderful. The balance feels pretty good, but I haven't actually tested it yet. It's a little ways back of the pivot, honestly. I didn't really notice that in hand. It just feels good, right? Moving on here, let's go ahead and do a hardware check. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive and, sorry, grabbed the wrong thing, very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use in this channel, or the pinned comment. T8, I'm guessing that's what he's got here across the board. That's what it looks like. T8 for the pivot. Yep. We have T8 for the frame screws, wonderful. And then there's a hidden screw for the pocket clip, and truthfully, it wouldn't surprise me if that's a T6, but that's okay. As far as disassembling this knife, for whatever reason, maintenance, probably not gonna have to do it for maintenance very often, but if you need to disassemble the knife, very easy. Minimal hardware, T8 across the board. As long as you have the right tools for the job, you should be good to go. Let's measure blade stock thickness here, and then we'll get into the meat and potatoes. I'm gonna guess that's 135. I'm gonna guess that's 130 thousandths. Let's put it that way. It's deceptive. Ah, look at that. I barely ever get that close, but there you go. Right about middle of the road. Okay, meat and potatoes time. I don't know about you guys, but initially, for me, both the Raiden and the Raikou didn't look ergonomic. It looked like there were hard shelves and hard angles everywhere. But for me, my index finger and my middle finger fit perfectly in this little area right here. And that not only locks you in, but it's very comfortable when you consider these raised areas right here. And these edges are not nearly as sharp as they initially appear. You can see they're actually chamfered down quite a bit. On top of that, the pocket clip is right about at the 50% mark, but it is also knocked down in the corners and doesn't look like it is. This looks like it's going to be sharp. Not really. You can see there it's knocked down quite a bit. This is machined very well. The edges are really, really nice. All these different areas are nice, and there's a little tiny bit of a choke up spot right here, this little flat area where you can choke up, and that's reasonably comfortable as well. This isn't a hand melting ergonomic experience, as I so often refer to it as when it's really good, but it is good. And also, I should point out, these are contoured. It looks like it's chamfered, then flat, then chamfered. No, it actually is. You can see right there, it is contoured, and that does lend to the comfort. I also like this area here. We have this jimping and then this little notch. I think that's really nice. It's largely the same idea as the Raiden, but it has a different blade shape. And personally, I think this blade shape has more personality. It's the combination of this Warncliffy looking blade, whatever. You know, the blade shape police always correct me. By the way, I like to make this joke. They've been trying to arrest me forever, right? They chase me around with their handcuffs, right? And then they realize that they're watching a YouTube video and I'm not physically present where they are, so they can't really arrest me. So I'm mocking you, blade shape police. I'm mocking you. You'll never catch me. I will mislabel blade shapes. I will continue to do the devil's work by mislabeling blade shapes on YouTube for eternity. Yes, you'll never stop me. Now, whatever you want to call this is fine. It looks very Warncliffy to me. I like that. I like it where the nose or the tip of the blade is down because I do a lot of draw cuts because I'm a simple boy and I do simple, regular Joe tasks with my knife. But I've come to prefer this blade shape functionally. Sometimes I do like the aesthetic of a nice draw point blade, which is what you're getting with the Raiden. It just depends on the design. I think this looks nice, and I like, in this case, we have this acid finish, so we have this sort of machined satin finish on the flat, more acid up here on the swedge, and more acid on the inside of this hole here. I think it just looks really nice, honestly. The edge is reasonably thin. It's got a nice tip to it. It's just a nice, cool-looking, functional, straightforward EDC. This is right there in that territory with what people want. They want a little bit of cool factor. They want some of that extra flair, right? They want some of that fun stuff that you can't get in the $50 to $100 territory. But you still want something that's functional, right? And it's like I like to point out all the time, this knife isn't necessarily going to function a whole lot different than knives that you can get around the $50 mark, right? Save for the S90V steel. But it's cool. It's a lot cooler, right? That's why we buy stuff like this. And I think he's done a good job. I do like We've got the texturing on the pivot. That seems to be a Null Knives thing. I think that's cool. It's knurling, right? Where I think it's lacking in personality is just the back half of the knife. It's a little, we got the chamfered edges and stuff, but I think it would have been really cool to do something with either this center area or back here, right? I don't know exactly what, but I think the handle's a little plain. And mostly, I don't mean versus the competition, because I think this knife is a little bit more interesting than the general competition. But if we compare it to other knives in his lineup, specifically the Voodoo, God, I love that thing. Null Knives, forgive me. You set the bar so high with the Voodoo, man. That thing is just wicked. And he's had some other great stuff that this is like, it's like really good, but in contrast, I'm like, I wish there was a little more personality here. You can add a little personality to your order if you want by getting the versions that have the anodized hardware and the PVD handles, or you could get carbon fiber, you can get Damasteel if you want to pay more money, right? I do like this plain version. I just wish there was some texturing somewhere. And people are going to point out, well, you always want texturing. Some people don't want texturing, and that's fair, right? So I guess it's coming down to just preferences. But I think the blade has some cool personality. I like the two-tone, right? And there's little things here. The standoff is really cool. I'm sorry, not the standoff, the thumb studs, right? The pivot's really cool. And then right here, it just seems like there should have been something there, and there's not. That's truthfully just about my only critique with this knife. I don't have a lot of complaints. I feel like Null Knives just knows what he's doing. He gets it done, right? There's no lanyard hole, which is also something that's my preference, so I'm not going to complain about that. I do wish we had an option for lefties to carry this. While I understand that milling out a spot for the pocket clip to be captive on this side would create an eyesore for people who have it mounted for right-handed tip-up carry, which is your only option. But I do wish that we had an option for lefties. But we don't, so sorry, lefties. It's just the way that it is. You'll have to carry it in your right-hand pocket. Backspacer, simple, but it looks nice, right? We didn't go raised, and I think raised would have been a weird look on this knife, so I think this is just fine. We have a nice ramp underneath the bill of the clip, a lot of retention, but it's fine. In and out of the pocket, it's very easy. And something that's lending to that ease is the fact that the center area is not textured. If it was textured, I recognize that might create a bit of a problem. But considering we only have one option for the position of the pocket clip, a bald spot underneath the clip, right? Basically just ending the texturing where it would contact the pocket clip bill. Just ending it there would be fine and not create an eyesore. In any case, the knife does carry plenty deep for my liking. I know that a lot of people will be fine with that. I do have to point out that the only thing that's on the blade is S90V. There's no Null Knives logo, and the reason for that is he's put it in the relief cut, which I don't know about you, I don't mind that. I think that's just fine because look how good this knife looks without any billboarding. I think that's really, really great. No issues there. The stop pin is located in its traditional position. No shouldering, but it doesn't need it. This does run on bearings. No blade play up, down, left, or right. No lock stick. No pivot lash. Very consistent in here. Very Riot feeling. All of these, right? Every company has their own feel, right? And as many knives as I've handled. I've got 4,000 uploads. I've handled a lot of knives. I can tell you. I mean it. There's a difference. I can tell, right? Now, maybe I'm wrong, right? He'll message me and be like, no, it's not Riot. Then my credibility goes out the window. But anyways, detent, very nice, very clicky. We have perfect centering with no detent lash. So what's the price on this? So the base price of these is $330, which is typical of a Riot knife, and it does exhibit that Riot quality, right? I love that it's S90V. That's a big bonus there. We have the Riot quality. We got S90V. We have a well-designed knife. We have a great blade shape, good look, right? You got a few options in there. The more options you add, the more expensive it gets. But full milled titanium backspacer, full milled titanium clip, right? It's all there. It's all there. I think the price is all right. I think the way that it is, about 300 or so would have been 330. I want something else going on with the handle. Personally, just a little bit, something else there. But that shouldn't stop you. I think this is a good knife, and I'm not upset at a $330 price tag. Yeah, you can sometimes get the same materials for less, but I don't feel like you're getting the same level of Riot execution most of the time. And also, it's that Null Knives cool factor. It just is. There's something about his designs that just work and they're well thought out. And you don't see that a lot. There's some good knives to be found in the $200 to $250 territory that have similar, if not identical materials, but they're just not quite, they're executed in a more lazy way, right? It's just like this blade shape works, this knife handle works, and there's just not really a whole lot of personality or designiness to it. And I don't know about you, but I'll pay a little extra for that because there's a little more effort involved, right? So I like this. I think it's great. I think it's a recommendable knife. If you have it, you got a good knife. If you're thinking about it, I recommend it to you. I think you'll like it. That's going to be pretty much it. Thanks again to Null Knives for sending this in. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.